What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Hi guys, Steven here. Today we're going to be checking out nasdaq 100. Right. These are some of the trend lines I managed to put yesterday. So I'm a naked trader. So I use price action solely to spot out my trades. Well, basically I use price action and percentages. As you can see here, it's -1%, it's -1%, -120, and all of those things. So this plays a big role for me and my trades. But I'll get to this maybe sometime later on. For now, I just wanted us to just give out a general overview of today's, actually the whole week's trades. I had a couple of few people asking me to actually do analysis. So I figured if I did this, it would be easier so that I can share it with everyone. So I don't know if I should do a new chat, but I don't think there's a need. But just to be on the safe side, I can quickly do this so that at least everybody sees what is it that I'm looking for when I look for trend lines and all of that, right? So we have our naked trade, a naked chart. Uh, I'm gonna get my setup quite ready. All my things the way I'm used to them, including the color. Prefer the red and green instead of this one. So I'm gonna quickly change all of this. Give me a sec. Okay, this is how I prefer my chart to be like, right? So we're gonna start with the weekly chart. And then on the weekly, basically when I open my charts, the only things that I'm usually looking for is our previous high, our previous low, and we're gonna break it down as we go down the lower time frames. So now we start on a weekly. On the weekly, we try to, for every trend lines I usually place, I try to look for three touches on both sides. I try to get touches, three touches on the support line, and three touches on the resistant line as well. So this how I would basically open my chart. I'll try to zoom in just a bit to put in the first one. So here, if we put our first analysis, we're gonna see that we're only getting. Sorry about that. Let me put in this one here. Uh, this is basically the last 2 points that we've had correction. So we can still expect next correction in the next couple of months, or probably even in a year or so, in a year's time or so. Can actually go all the way up there to come back here. But to bear in mind, these are weeks, not just only. So these are weeks. So if you count anything around 52 candles, 54 candles, you will definitely know that a year has passed. So because we're looking at the weekly chart, right? So because this one is quite clear here on the two touches that it usually has. As much as I'm looking for three, but this one is because these are corrections. These are very big. So these are kind of linked to this one. So we have our first bottom touch here. Then we're gonna look for the same touches on the top side. So you see on the top side we managed to get our clear three touches. It's the first one here. This one you can also count it because it's very close enough. So sometimes the touches don't have to be exactly or spot on the graph, but you can see how close it came to your trend line. And then we have this showing us that we are still. So our price action, we look at the places where we had the most or the biggest price movements, or where there was the biggest price rejections, or the biggest support that we can find on our trend lines. So here we have our first, the biggest support we've had since the coronavirus drop, and then here should be our second biggest correction we've ever had with Nasdaq. This was about 30%, and this was about 20%, to show that we're actually still in the correction phase. But here, what we're seeing here, we're having our first rejection here to show us that the market could potentially be turning around. If this candle closes below this line, it means it's going to continue going down. But if it closes above this line, it means we're looking for complete turnaround of this market. So I think the first thing, or the first key to always, is to find the general direction. So I feel that the bigger time frames would be able to give you that broader view as to where the market is going, where it's at this particular moment, and what is it that you should look forward to in the next coming week. Like last week we managed to potentially spot sells from here, all the way from here, because it failed to break this line. So it meant it had to go back and retest down here, which is the same support area as this one. Right. Okay. Since we have established that, this, it means now this is still in an up direction. It's still in an up direction on a weekly basis. Long term, Nasdaq, it means it's still a buy market. So this is an overall general direction for the entire Nasdaq at this particular moment. So we haven't seen anything that turns around, especially on a weekly. So far we're still holding on more buys. And then we're gonna go down to break it to daily. I think I'm gonna start adding side trend lines from here on the daily, just to break it down a bit from where we at. We have our first drop here. We have our first touch, second touch here, here, here as well. And then we're gonna look for the second one that has most touches on it. We have this one. It has these ones. Has these ones. Also has these ones. And then we're gonna go for another one. I think we have a very strong point here, somewhere around here. But I think I can push it somewhere down here. I'll get the closer ones once we get around the 4 hours or the 1 hour time frame. So at least I want you guys to see, well, how do I look for opportunities in the Nasdaq, and what usually gives me the direction as to where to enter and all of that. So you also have this one. I'm gonna try to be very quick with this thing so that it doesn't take too long. Hopefully I'm talking to people who've traded before, but I'm also trying to go back and explain almost every detail, so in case I'm also talking to people who haven't traded before. So here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find locations where most of my trend lines touches in more than 2 to 3 points. 2 to 3 points should be your first target, where it touches your trend line should be able to touch 2 points or three at least. I usually try to get three, but if it only gives me two, like this one, the big support lines, so I usually take it as well. So here we have our trend line. This should also tell us, as you can see here, it broke this trend line. Was supposed to actually continue down, but since it actually failed to break on this point, it means it rejected and went all the way up. If you notice here, it actually happened on one day. It went all the way down in one day and went all the way back up. You will see it as we go to lower time frames. But essentially what we're seeing here on this market direction is that it actually was a downtrend for a very long time. It tried to go up, it failed to break here, and then it continued to go down. And then here we found a very big support. As you can see here, we have a very big support around this area. So even the last previous trades, it tried to break down, but it only came back to just shoot up some more. So here what we're seeing is almost the same pattern. where we're having this, and this is a very big rejection to consider that this candle is actually on daily. So not only did it break the first candle, it also broke. Not only did it break the first trend line, but it also broke the second trend line. But immediately broke it back up, so it didn't even waste time. So here, what we saw was a change of direction to an uptrend. Are we completely there? Not sure yet, because um, as the market opened, as we're still on daily time frame, we still need to see the market break from here, because this candle here doesn't usually count. We need to see a complete full break in, at least on the lower time frames, because it could still retest down here or here before it actually continues up to 14,800. But we are most likely to see that up sometime during this week, because we are almost about from where we are, it's almost like 1,800 pips, 800 points to all the way there. So in nasdaq you can usually close that much in 2 days, sometimes 2 to 3 days. um, so yeah, that's why it's also very important not to take trades looking at a daily time frame, because from here to here on a daily would seem like a small move, but if you get to realize it's actually from 14,000 to actually 14,800. So this is a very big move, so be careful of the time frames. Now we're going on the 4 hour time frame. 4 hour time frame, like I said before. Okay, can I just quickly try to remove this? Yes, thank you. So like I said, we're still looking the with the smaller time frame, we get to see why we're looking into breaking around this area of 15,000. At least if we break above here. In fact, I think we should actually put a gray area around this place. Let me do this. We can only suggest that we're going to see a continuous up to the side if it ever breaks here, right? And this is the very crucial part, because this is where I'm going to try to add in a little bit of understanding on how usually the percentage works on my advantage, right? This was a movement that happened in one day. It went all the way down and it went all the way up and it closed somewhere here. Ever since, it was never able to break up until the next day. And then since this morning, it has broken from here. It went down and came back all the way here, but it hasn't broken below. Hasn't broken above here. So it means we're seeing a very strong resistance around this area. Now that we are actually on a 4 hour time frame, we get to see quite clearly that we are not really in a position to assume that it's going to continue with the bias. So this is a patience game, guys. If you can understand how important it is to wait for this kind of type of confirmations, so that you don't find yourself, because it could still retest all the way down. So usually you're gonna see a drop around three, uh, 2, 3. If it does decide that it's not gonna break here, it's actually gonna continue and go back down. But if it does usually break here, we probably might see an up momentum around 4:30 when the market starts to open. Um, I usually never take trades before 4:30. Usually my best trades are around 5:30. Usually Nasdaq around 4:30 when it opens. It's usually influenced by fundamentals, so you might have a small up or might have a small down before it gives you a proper layout of its direction for the rest of the evening going forward. So I usually try to avoid those fundamental trades, fundamental trades there. So in that case, it means we're gonna wait for a 5:30 set up after we are sure if it's breaking here. So currently it's actually on negative 127. It usually came to 2% all the way here, because it's 4 hours. You'll probably see it in 1 hour. So In 1 hour here, we have this. So I'm gonna try to break it down even furthermore in 1 hour. As I already explained to you, I'm looking for more touches. With this more than 3 to 4 touches. And I think the more you start doing this, the more you get to see the market quite clearly. A lot of things starts to make sense because you get to see the overall direction. Also, I'm gonna add Fibonacci just to show you guys. As I was putting the trades here, Fibonacci is supposed to at least be somewhere close to all my trend lines once I edit. If it's not close to my trend lines, it means what I'm doing here has just been a waste of my time and your time. So let's see if Fibonacci can also respect the trend lines that I thought could reflect the best possible turnaround areas. But with 1 hour, this is where we're going to start looking for our entries, right? Earlier on today, I had an entry. Kind of got it from here because it was already at 2% that I could tell that it was not willing to go down beyond there because they had already failed the first time to actually break here. So since it failed to break here, it means the next logical thing for it to do means was to go retest up. So I waited for this. Actually, I missed this one, and then it came back. It rejected here, then it came back all the way down. But once I saw that there was a bit of support here, I decided to actually take a trade right here, and then I got out somewhere around this area here. So now I'm just waiting for this to complete, so I can see what is it that I'll be going for. Um, but if it does, with 1 hour, it's quite clear actually. I don't even have to wait for it to get here because this was a previous day, it was a Friday trade and it actually went all the way down to all the way up there because this was Thursday. And then Friday went all this way up, but it also rejected from here since it came all the way down here. So we still have these two places as well. These two places are also gonna play a big role with us determining if it's gonna continue going up all the way here. Because here we have a very strong support as we can see. But here, this was the big rejection we've had ever since this big up to rejected to come down here. So we're gonna have to see this one first. But you can also you have a good buy here, but I would suggest never to add any trades before 330. Anytime after 330, you should be able to know the general direction of the trades for today. Um, but yeah, let's see what Fibonacci has for us. So I'm gonna add Fibonacci here. Don't forget Fibonacci is supposed to lay it with the previous high. That also comes to the previous low. So there we are with Fibonacci. Seems like Fibonacci also agrees with most of our trades because with Fibonacci actually the trade is actually just a little bit above here. So I can move my trade, I can move my trend line just closer to the Fibonacci trade here. Make it more accurate because I feel I need that kind of type of confirmation. But that's the only trend line I think I'm gonna move. But the rest I feel that they're sitting quite well there. But I like that the Fibonacci ones managed to hit identically on the head. So the trend line mine is just a couple of steps away from it. I don't have a trend line here, but I have a trend line here. I also have a trend line here. But I feel also this plays a big role. There's a big support area here. I think I should add another line there. And maybe no, maybe that's one here. Just to break it down even more further. But if you look at our Fibonacci as well, kind of agrees with some of the trend lines we've kind of put here to say that it's actually responding quite well with everything that we have here. It shows that once we break on the 621.8 area, we're definitely going on the 100 It might take a couple of days, two at most, because NASA's is really moving big this day.